Well, I went down a rabbit hole yesterday on the Jarrell, Texas F5 tornado that occurred on May the 27th, 1997, and it fucked me up. So now I'm going to share it with you because as a weather nerd, had no idea. I don't know how I didn't know about this. I feel like my weather nerd card has been revoked, active immediately, but now I'm getting it back. And I'm going to share it with you. But trigger warning, if you are squeamish, this is not for you. You have been warned at this point. But what fucked me up about this tornado is the fact that it degloved or skinned the victims. So animals and people were not only skinned from this tornado, but their bones and organs were also pulverized. So when they were doing body recovery on these people, for some of these people, they were literally looking for fingers and wrists and feet and stuff. That is how insane this is. So we're going to talk about the events of that day, what happened, and how insane it all is, because this tornado was an anomaly and a force of nature. So let's get into it. So one thing that you need to know about that day in the area between Waco and Austin, so Jarrell's kind of right in between, there were no tornado watches. None for that day. The forecast said strong to severe isolated thunderstorms. That was it. Nothing to write home about. If you live in Tornado Alley or you live in the South, that's just like, it's another spring day, whatever. But in the afternoon, early afternoon that day, there was a supercell that formed over Waco, Texas. And that supercell started moving southwest. This is interesting because most weather patterns move east or like northeast. This one was moving southwest, and on its way down spouted some like weak tornadoes that dissipated. But once it got outside of the like the outskirts of Jarrell, Texas, it spouted an F5 tornado. But that's not the most interesting part. Because if you thought that an F5 tornado vortex was bad, just wait, there's more. There were satellite vortices that formed around the F5 vortex. So it essentially looked like somebody was walking in the clouds towards Jarrell, Texas. Somebody caught this in a photo. It is a very famous photo. It's called Dead Man Walking. Google it. It is chilling. But it looked like this tornado or cluster of vortices was walking towards Jarrell, Texas. And the damage that it did, we're going to talk about it. And I know that I only used 2 fingers, but there were 3 vortices. Just heads up if you're like trying to fact check me. I only can do so much, okay? Very soon after that photo was taken, those vortices formed into one giant wedge tornado that covered about 3/4 of a mile. And what's even weirder about this tornado is that it was moving very slowly. Typically, tornadoes move pretty quickly, and this one was moving less than 10 miles an hour. And if you thought that it was just only one vortex at this point, you are sorely mistaken. There were multiple vortices within that 3/4 of a mile wedge that were still operating chaotically inside of it. When this F5 tornado with multiple vortices inside of it approached this one particular block of Jarrell, Texas, it completely obliterated it and wiped it off of the map. The devastation was like an atomic bomb had gone off. And it only took 3 minutes for that tornado to obliterate that block. 3 minutes. 27 people lost their lives that day. The only people who survived were those who were in storm shelters or were lucky. There were 2 people who survived who were above ground. Everybody sheltered in place, just like the National Weather Service has told us to do. Go to that interior room in your house, grab pillows, blankets, helmet, all gather together, shelter in place. Everybody except for 2 people who was above ground died. And everybody who was underground survived. 38 homes were destroyed. And there was extreme ground scouring. Some places it was 18 inches deep into the earth. Vehicles were thrown hundreds of yards and were literally like torn apart into like unrecognizable scraps or looked like they imploded. Livestock and animals were also killed, and don't Google those images. But some victims' bodies were never fully recovered because, like I said, the tornado's force literally pulverized them, almost as if it was a fucking blender. Even some of the foundations of those homes were torn up and pulverized. The devastation that this tornado caused, off the charts. And debris from the Jarrell tornado was found over 100 miles away. Like, what? This was not just a tornado. This was an absolute annihilation. In this tornado, the winds reached over 260 to 318 miles an hour. I can't even fathom that level of force. And here's the good news. The people who were unalived during this tornado, they didn't know what was happening to them. It happened very quick, which is the good news. But you guys, I had no idea that tornadoes could do this. And I can't just sit with this information by myself. So when I hear something awful, I have to share it with everybody I know. Anyway, next time you don't want to listen to a tornado warning, think again. Okay? They can be that bad. It's happened before, it could happen again. I just realized that I forgot a big piece of information why this was also an anomaly. Most tornadoes in our hemisphere spin counterclockwise, and this one spun clockwise. 99.9999999% repeating tornadoes in our hemisphere counterclockwise. But also just thanks for, again, sticking around this long. And when there's a tornado warning in your area, don't chance it. Take it seriously, because what the fuck, you guys? I had no idea that this could happen, and I'm a weather nerd. Okay? Take it seriously. Thank you for sticking around.
At this point, the funnel was very thin, almost like a rope or a piece of spaghetti, giving many people hope that it would just dissipate in a few minutes. However, to their horror and dismay, just 10 minutes later, it would grow and morph into something that would haunt witnesses and bystanders forever. Viewers looked on in horror as the system produced another funnel cloud and formed a multi-vortex tornado, making the beast much, much larger than it was before, and forming a sight that would go on to live in infamy. Residents, pets, wild animals, and
They couldn't find the people that were in these houses until they started looking more closely.
Is it hard for you to talk about what you saw?
I'd just rather not talk about that.
Every piece of debris was shrapnel.
She was a mom holding on to her. They were just holding each other. And they died that way.
Shredding everything in its path. Homes, livestock, people. All that was left was pieces.
Basically, they found a finger over here or a wrist over there, and they were able to try to piece back together the people, literally, to try to identify them.
The unthinkable had just happened. The same storm system produced additional tornadoes.
It's my first tornado. Hope it's my last.
Where were the people that were in these houses?
It's going across the interstate.